rig is really a combination of a lot of unique features that we'll cover on the way around. Some of them play into each other, but starting with the front end, up above the windshield, we have a brow light, which is a scene light for when we're on the highway and trying to take care of vehicle accidents, specifically in the wintertime when oncoming cars have greatly reduced visibility because of snowfall. Down a little lower at the bottom of the bumper here, we have optional LED fog/driving lights. These lights are down very low on our rig and offer the operator and the captain much better forward-facing views during heavy snowfall. Outside of lighting in the front bumper, we also have what we call a bumper line. And this is a line primarily we use in the summertime for initial attack on a wildland fire. One thing that we do kind of different here is we keep everything concealed because of our winter environment. Anything that's exposed to the elements is going to be filled with road grime, salt, sand, etc. It'll corrode and basically become unusable. So we have a sealed compartment here on the front bumper that we can put down, and we can run all winter long and open it up and it'll be hermetically sealed, if you will. And so as we kind of come down, you'll notice this giant gap here in the fender and how the tire looks so small. The two things in particular that we worked out with KME during the design process was to give us room within the fender well. For us, we'll run tire chains on our rigs sometimes for 3 months a year, total snow day time. If we had very tight clearances here, every time we broke a link on the tire chain, that link would spin up, it would grab the fender and do damage, right? So not only do we have this space, but we have extra fender liners installed at the factory, just in case we do get something that goes wrong inside. And so having this clearance is super nice. Down to the operator's panel, you know, it's pretty much standard stuff. We've chosen the Hale, and it's 1500 GPM pump, 750 gallons in the tank. A couple of things that we like a little bit differently at North Tahoe. We have electronic tank level indicating gauges, but we also back it up with a manual sight tube. This allows the operator to not rely on electronic sensors, but use his vision, right, to be able to watch the tank level recede. Gives him a better feel for how much water he's using. Not that he can't monitor that other ways, but there's nothing like that old school visual method. And KME managed to fit it on the panel, and as you can see, the panel's pretty busy. We run PIRVs on our intakes. Specifically, it helps us with drafting because in the urban interface environment, we do a lot of drafting, and that way we can put a draft hose out and simply open and close this when we want to start and stop drafting versus unhooking, putting a cap on, running for a while. This gives us greater flexibility with that. Rear of the rig, one of the things that we carry 1,000 feet of LDH 5-inch on board. And with a 750 gallon tank and the 4-wheel drive, raising it up, we start to get into height issues. And so we worked a long time at the factory at KME to come out with the right dimensions to be able to get 500 feet of LDH, 400 feet of 1 3/4, and 400 feet of 2.5 inch in that hose bed configuration where the Storks coupling on the 5-inch will still come out the back and keep our overall rig height down and usable for the rear end. So we also have a 2.5 inch discharge on the rear that's foam capable, of course, and that's what we use for if we have the 2.5 deployed in a structure scenario, or when we're operating in the wildland urban interface, we will put a 2.5 by 1.5 inch Y on there, and then we'll run lines off the back, 2.5 inch lines to do structure protection with. Aero stick light bar, pretty standard stuff. What we did differently though is rather than recess it in and lose compartment space, KME built this step, if you will. So we have to load LDH right into up there, and so LDH is heavy, especially when it's wet and frozen. So we have a kind of an interesting old school design with a beaver tail tailboard. So it gives the firefighters that are loading that heavy hose a place to stand right up here where they have good footing, and the second firefighter can stand here and use one of these steps And it just really allows for safer handling of the hose rather than hanging kind of precariously on the back of the engine where you're trying to hand up heavy stuff. Other neat feature, you may have noticed this as we've been moving around the apparatus, is we try to get our stuff as best as possible inside of the engine. Kind of back to that bumper idea. Anything that we have on the outside of the engine is going to get frozen. Ladders, we have older engines that have ladders on the outside. And when it's raining and it freezes, sometimes those ladders are inoperable or they're frozen on the engine. So with the design staff at KME, we came up with an option for that. So in here, we have a pry bar, we have a plaster hook, 2 pike poles, a rubbish hook, a attic ladder, 14-foot roof ladder, and then we have the ability to either put a 35 3-fly or a 24 2-fly in. For us, we move as apparatus needs come up in the district. This engine may be moved to a station where it only has a 24-foot ladder. Where it's stationed now, it has a 35-foot ladder. So KME came up with a really nice design for us where we can use either ladder in here just by inserting a little stop. And so it's a real advantage for a department. It's a lot of flexibility that it gives us. If this engine was running with a 2-man crew, trying to manage a 35-foot ladder in snow with a 2-man crew, pretty tough. A 24, totally doable. One other additional option that we had installed by KME was fire curtains on our last 2 engines ordered. These engines travel the state in the summertime on OES state assignments, fighting fire throughout the state. And we have fire curtains that cover all windows on the engine. They roll down and give you a heat shield in case you're in a particularly hot situation.